Matsui for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for having this hearing today. Today, we have another opportunity to hear from the leaders of Facebook, Twitter, and Google in what has become a concerning pattern. The members of this committee are here to demand answers to questions about social media's role in escalating misinformation, extremism, and violence. Last week, I testified at a House Judiciary Committee hearing about the rise in discrimination and violence against Asian Americans. Horrifically, that hearing came on the heels of a violent attack in Atlanta that left 8 people, 6 of whom were Asian women, dead. The issues we are discussing here are not abstract. They have real-world consequences and implications that are too often measured in human lives. I'm worried, as are many watching this hearing, that the companies before us today are not doing enough to prevent the spread of hate, especially when it's targeted against minority communities. Clearly, the current approach is not working, and I believe Congress must revisit Section 230. A recent study from the University of San Francisco examined nearly 700,000 tweets in the week before and after President Trump tweeted the phrase Chinese virus. The results showed 2 alarming trends. There was a significantly greater increase in hate speech the week after the president's tweet, and that half of the tweets using the hashtag China virus showed an anti-Asian sentiment compared to just 1/5 of the tweets using the hashtag COVID-19. This empirical evidence backs up what the World Health Organization already knew in 2015, saying disease names really do matter. We've seen certain disease names provoke a backlash against members of particularly religious or ethnic communities. Despite this, Facebook and Twitter are still allowing hashtags like China virus, Kung flu, and Wuhan virus to spread. Mr. Zuckerberg and Mr. Dorsey, given the clear association between this type of language and racism and violence, why do you still allow these hashtags on your platforms? Anyone want to answer that, or is that not answerable?
I think we're waiting for you to call on one of us. We do have policies against hateful conduct, and that includes the trends. So when we see it associated with any hateful conduct, we will take action on it. It's useful to remember that a lot of these hashtags, though, do contain counter speech, and people on the other side of it do own them and show why this is so terrible and why it needs to stop.
Could I just take my time back? The fact of the matter is I think you know how to develop algorithms to kind of get rid of this and examine this further. Mr. Zuckerberg, any comment here?
Thanks, Congresswoman. The rise in anti-Asian hate is a really big issue and something that I do think that we need to be proactive about. I agree with the comments that Jack made on this. You know, on Facebook, any of that context, if it's combined with something that's clearly hateful, we will take that down. It violates the hate speech policy. But one of the nuances that Jack highlighted that we certainly see as well in enforcing hate speech policies is that we need to be clear about when someone is saying something because they're using it in a hateful way versus when they're denouncing it. And this is one of the things that has made it more difficult to operationalize this at scale.
An opportunity to really look at hate speech, what it really means, particularly in this day and age when we have many instances of these things happening. You know, hate speech on social media can be baked in. And unfortunately, this also is a trend that maybe happened years and years ago, in which it might have just been a latent situation. But with social media, it travels all around the world and it hurts a lot of people. And my feeling, and I believe a lot of other people's feeling, is that we really have to look at how we define hate speech. And, you know, you all are very brilliant people and you hire brilliant people. I would think that there is a way for you to examine this further and take it one step lower to see if it is something that is legitimate or not. And I really feel that this is a time, especially now when we're examining platforms and what you can do and should do. And as we're examining here in this committee, and as we write legislation, we really want to have the entire multitude of what can and can't be done. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I only have 11 seconds left and I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlelady yields back.